One of the questions I'm asked most often is, what exactly does WellSafe do? It's a fair question. Some people think we're international tax advisors. Others think we help Australians relocate overseas. Some assume we establish international companies, trusts, or bank accounts. And yes, those things form part of what we do, but they don't explain what WellSafe is really about. They're simply components of something much bigger. Over the years, I noticed something. Successful Australian business owners really struggled because they couldn't find good advisors. Most already had great accountants, lawyers, and international specialists. The problem wasn't the quality of the advice. The problem was that no one was responsible for designing the integrated strategy that brought it all together. Suddenly, you're expected to understand how Australian tax affects international structures, how residency affects ownership, how one decision creates consequences somewhere else, and when each professional discipline needs to become involved. Then you're expected to decide what should happen in the right order and across multiple jurisdictions. Without even realizing it, you've become the strategist, the coordinator, and the project manager. But that was never meant to be your job. And that's exactly why WellSafe exists. Hi, I'm Vina White, CEO of WellSafe. In the previous episode, I explained why successful Australian business owners often begin planning their international transition years before they relocate. Today, I want to explain something even more fundamental: why WellSafe exists. Imagine someone hands you a 1,000-piece puzzle, but they've thrown away the picture on the front of the box. Then each professional gives you another handful of pieces: your accountant, your lawyer, your migration advisor, your international corporate provider. Every piece is valuable, but nobody has shown you what the finished picture is supposed to look like. So you begin assembling it yourself, making decisions, choosing structures, trying to connect advice from different professionals. Not because you're the right person to do it, but because nobody has designed the complete picture. Imagine you're an Australian business owner relocating overseas. Your Australian accountant is advising you on Australian tax. The advisor in your new country is advising you on local tax and residency. Your lawyer is establishing the legal structure. Every professional is doing exactly what they've been engaged to do. But who's making sure each decision supports the overall strategy rather than creating unintended consequences somewhere else? That's the role of the Chief Strategist, someone who understands how taxation, legal structures, residency, banking, asset protection, and international jurisdictions fit together, knows when each professional specialist needs to become involved, designs the overall strategy, determines the implementation sequence, and ensures every decision supports the outcome you're trying to achieve. A chief strategist doesn't replace accountants, lawyers, or migration advisors. Each professional brings specialist expertise. The chief strategist understands enough about each discipline to design the strategy, determine the implementation sequence, and bring that expertise together into one integrated strategy. That's where WellSafe is different. We don't begin with a company or a trust or a jurisdiction. We begin with the outcome you're trying to create for your business, your family, your wealth, and your future. Through the complete wealth control system, we design the strategic blueprint for your entire international transition. Before implementation begins, you understand what needs to happen, why it needs to happen, who needs to be involved, and in what sequence. But that's only the beginning. Once the strategy has been designed, we coordinate its implementation through our trusted ecosystem of professional specialists, accountants, lawyers, tax specialists, international corporate providers, and any other specialists required for your circumstances. These aren't random referrals. They're trusted professionals who understand the strategy, their role within it, and when their expertise is needed. Each specialist focuses on what they do best. WealthSafe remains your chief strategist. We determine the implementation sequence, coordinate the process, identify dependencies, and make sure one decision doesn't unintentionally undermine another. Instead of managing multiple independent professionals yourself, you have one strategic blueprint, one trusted ecosystem of professional specialists, and one chief strategist bringing it all together. That's the difference between simply receiving professional advice and having your international transition designed, coordinated, and implemented as one integrated system. In episode 1, I spoke about building the bridge before you relocate. Now, let me explain what that bridge really is. Many people assume international planning begins once they move overseas. It doesn't. For Australian business owners, it begins in Australia because that's where your current position exists. Your Australian tax residency, your companies, your trusts, your investments, and your legal and compliance obligations. But Australia is only one part of the picture. Your new country of residence may be another. Your business, banking, and investments may each sit in different jurisdictions. Every jurisdiction has its own laws, tax rules, and compliance requirements, and every decision made in one jurisdiction can affect another. So the real question isn't what should happen in Australia or what should happen overseas. The real question is, how do all of those jurisdictions work together? Who designs the overall strategy? Who determines the right sequence? Who knows when each professional specialist should become involved? That's the bridge. And that's the role WealthSafe performs. First, we design the strategic architecture through the complete wealth control system. Then, we determine the implementation pathway, bringing the right professionals into the process at the right time. Throughout the journey, WealthSafe remains your chief strategist, ensuring every professional, every jurisdiction, and every decision continues to support one integrated strategy. Because the bridge isn't simply an international structure, it's the connection between where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow. That's why every WealthSafe journey begins with strategic advice. Implementation should never be where the strategy is discovered. It should be where a well-designed strategy is brought to life. Before anything's established, before anything is restructured, before professional specialists begin implementing their part, we first need to understand the outcome you're trying to create. Because every international transition is different. Different businesses, different families, different jurisdictions, different priorities. So where do you actually start? You start by designing the strategy first. That's what strategic advice is all about. It's where we design the strategic blueprint, determine the right jurisdiction, identify the right professional specialists, and establish the implementation sequence before important decisions are made. Because once that foundation's in place, every professional understands their role. Every decision supports the next. Implementation becomes clearer, more coordinated, and significantly less risky. So what does WealthSafe really do? We act as the chief strategist for successful Australian business owners undertaking an international transition. Through the complete wealth control system, we design the strategic blueprint. Then through our trusted ecosystem of professional specialists, we bring that strategy to life. Throughout the journey, WealthSafe remains your chief strategist, ensuring every professional, every jurisdiction, and every decision supports one integrated strategy. Because your role is to run your business, build your wealth, and create the future you want for your family. Our role is to make sure you never have to become the strategist, the coordinator, or the project manager of your own international transition. That's our job. I'm Vina White from WellSafe. In the next episode, I will take you inside the strategic advice process itself and show you how we design the strategic blueprint that becomes the foundation for everything that follows. I'll see you in the next episode.